So our true self has a perception of ourselves and the world. And when we think of perceptions, we can think of our conditional perception. So that's the perception we've learnt to have. That's the one that's been programmed into us through life. And so we have that perception, and that perception can be sometimes useful for us, can be sometimes really problematic for us, sometimes a combination of both. And then we have how our true self sees ourselves in the world. And generally how our true self sees ourselves and the world is in a more peaceful way. So it's generally going to have a more peaceful perception of what's going on. So today what I want to talk about is a little bit how the true self actually sees us. And so you have a comparison point. So when your mind is saying different things from our conditioning, that we can kind of compare it so we can make sure that we can change it to more closely meet how our true self sees the world. So our true self sees the world, and it sees that there is actually no past or future. There's only the right now. Some people call it the eternal now, and it's probably one that everyone's heard about. But really, it's only right here, right now. That's all there is. Our mind goes to the past, our mind goes to the future. So our mind does that, but when our true self, which is the consciousness and awareness, it's always present here and now. And it's always in a process of here and now. Our true self, or our soul, if you want to call it that, is also accepting of ourselves. It's already accepting of ourselves. It doesn't need us to change. It doesn't need ourselves to be different. It's just accepting of who we are as we are right now. And it's also accepting of others and life in general. Really, the true self doesn't need anything to change to accept what anything is or how anything is. So it really doesn't need anything to be different for it to be at peace, or for me to be at peace when we perceive through the eyes of the true self. The other thing about our true self is it's very compassionate to ourselves. So it's not berating of us, it doesn't put us down, it's not critical, and it also offers that to all other people. So it's actually kind, loving, caring, accepting, and it doesn't actually have hate involved in it, like something like our mind might have. And it sees all the good things about us, all the things that we're really useful at, the ways that we're really aligned with it, and the ways we're moving forward, and it appreciates them all. So the more we're appreciating of ourselves, the more we're connecting with our true self, and the more our mind says, nah, you're not doing good enough, you should be doing this, or you're not enough there, is that's really telling you where you're lost in your conditioning, where you're not connected to where your true self is. The true self also sees that there's no true thoughts. There's no such thing as a true thought. Thoughts are from the conditioned mind. So what happens is thoughts are words about reality. They're pictures and pointers to reality, but not the reality itself. So the true self doesn't just believe a thought because it's there. It sort of can notice a thought, it can be aware of it, and it can give it power if required, but it can also say, no, that's just a thought, not necessary to give it power. This is where I am, and this is how I want to view this. My true self also is forgiving and never holds a grudge. So it remembers. It doesn't mean that it doesn't just become stupid because it decides to forgive. It just decides that forgiving feels what's more peaceful to it. It doesn't have to hold on to someone's bad behavior, or even our own bad behavior to ourselves. It's also very encouraging. So our true self will encourage us to move forward. It's always kind of motivating us, keep going, keep going, keep going. And it's not really a stop and never get up mentality. It's always like no, we can do this, we can get through this. So really our true self sees everything as perfect just as it is. And nothing really needs to change for it to be perfect. Our mind will see all the problems and see where things need to change. If that was better, then I'd feel better, and then it'd be perfect if that got improved. It's not really about that. Our true self sees everything fine just as it is. It doesn't mean that it can't improve things. It just improves things from a more peaceful state and a more peaceful place. The true self also sees that our emotions are all okay, and they're useful to feel, and they can also be useful to have at times too. So it doesn't just say feeling happy is a good emotion. It says, being sad can be a useful emotion. Being angry can be a useful emotion. Having anxiety can be useful at times. So our true self sees all the emotions as useful, and it is okay to feel every single one of them before deciding what course of action is required. Our true self also doesn't fight with the flow of life. Our true self just goes with the flow of life. It's actually part of the flow of life itself. So in a sense, it surrenders to how life is, and it's in tune with its unfolding. So whenever we find that we're fighting life, we're really being disconnected with how our true self sees it, and our job is, can we surrender? Can we get back in the flow with how our true self is relating to the world? The true self is also loving of myself, loving of others, and loving of life. So the true self is amazed at all of these things. It doesn't look at them as problematic. It doesn't look at it as needing something to change, needing something to be different. It means I'm okay with who I am, and it loves me for how I am. And it loves me for how I am, but how I'm becoming. and others the same way, and life the same way too. And it really doesn't see anything as good or bad or right or wrong. Things are literally just as they are. What it will see though is things as more aligned with how it functions and things that are less aligned with how it functions. So our conditioned mind might still see things and do things, and our true self's not going to say that's wrong or bad, but it will notice when it is less aligned. And the thing that tells us when it's less aligned is usually when we're feeling emotionally unpleasant emotions. That's telling us that this isn't generally not in alignment with my true self. So it's telling us when we're not perceiving in alignment with our true self. Our true self also sees things as an ongoing process. It's not that things are just stuck or stagnant. Nothing is ever stuck or stagnant. Everything's always moving. Our mind thinks it needs to be moving faster. Sometimes it thinks it's moving too fast and needs to be moving slower. Sometimes it feels we're stuck and have no movement at all. So our true self never sees that. Everything in life is a constant motion, and our true self sees that that's happening all the time. So it also realizes that because of that, nothing is ever permanent. Our thoughts, our emotions, whatever state we're in at the moment, it's not a permanent state. Nothing can be permanent because it's forever evolving. Often, like I said before, evolving probably at a slower rate than we want it to. Usually that's what frustrates us more. It's evolving too slow or too fast. So the more we can get on board with recognizing that nothing is permanent, the more we can sort of ride the waves of when things come. And the other thing that the true self realizes is that we're all one. Everything is one. The universe, us, the world, we're all an interconnected system and not separate from each other or the universe. So it's all in one major flow. And the more we can join that flow, the more we play our part in a harmonic way, in a harmonious way as well. So the more you can connect to your true self and see how your true self sees the world, the more you can follow that pathway, the more we can then start to shift from our conditioning that doesn't serve us, but it also gives you a point to move towards. So even if you aren't quite there just yet with how you see the world, the more you can start moving towards how your true self sees the world, the more likely you are to have the peace and perception of well-being that the truth being living as your true self offers you.